The alien warship Zalvor drifted silently through the void of space, its sleek obsidian hull reflecting faint starlight like a predator stalking its prey. Inside, amidst labyrinthine corridors bathed in eerie blue luminescence, a lone human prisoner sat shackled to the cold metallic floor. His name was Captain Elias Kane, once a celebrated commander of Earth's United Defense Fleet, now reduced to nothing more than a trophy for the Krylosian Empire. Elias had been captured during humanity's first encounter with the Krylosians, a ruthless race of insectoid conquerors who saw humans as little more than vermin. Their advanced technology and overwhelming firepower had decimated Earth's defenses within weeks. Billions perished, cities crumbled into ash, and those who survived were either enslaved or exterminated. Elias himself had led a desperate last stand against the invaders, only to be betrayed by one of his own officers. Now he was imprisoned aboard the Zalvor, awaiting execution as a symbol of Krylosian dominance. But Elias Kane was not a man who accepted defeat easily. For months, he studied every detail of the ship from his cell. The rhythmic hum of energy, conduits running along the walls, the faint vibrations that signaled shifts in artificial gravity, the subtle changes in light intensity when the vessel entered hyperspace. All these became part of his mental map. He listened intently to the guttural clicks and hisses of the Krylosian guards, piecing together fragments of their language, and most importantly, he observed the routines of the crew, feeding schedules, patrol patterns, maintenance checks. Every piece of information was stored away, waiting for the moment it could be used. That moment came on what would have been his execution day, as two towering Krylosian soldiers dragged him toward the airlock where he was to be ejected into space. Elias acted. With a sudden twist, he slammed his bound hands upward, striking one guard's mandible with enough force to stun it. Using the creature's momentarily limp body as leverage, he swung around and drove his foot into the second guard's thorax, sending it sprawling backward. Before they could recover, Elias snatched a plasma cutter from the utility belt of the fallen guard and severed his restraints. Alarms blared throughout the ship as chaos erupted. Elias sprinted down the corridor, dodging bursts of searing green energy fired by pursuing Krylosians. Adrenaline coursed through his veins as he navigated the maze-like interior, relying on memory and instinct to stay ahead. Reaching a junction, he ducked into a ventilation shaft just as a squad of heavily armed troopers thundered past. Inside the cramped ductwork, Elias allowed himself a brief moment to catch his breath. This wasn't freedom yet. It was merely survival. But even as he crawled deeper into the bowels of the ship, a plan began to form in his mind. If he couldn't escape entirely, perhaps he could turn the tables on his captors. Perhaps he could make them regret ever setting foot on Earth. Hours later, Elias emerged near the engineering bay. It was risky. This section of the ship was heavily guarded, but it was also the key to his revenge. Creeping through shadows cast by pulsating machinery, he located the main power core, a massive sphere of swirling violet plasma encased in reinforced alloy. The Krylosians called it the Zin core, the heart of their ship's propulsion system. Without it, the Zalvor would be dead in the water, or rather, dead in the void. Using tools scavenged from fallen guards, Elias rigged the core with improvised explosives crafted from spare parts and stolen munitions. The process was painstaking, requiring precision under immense pressure. Sweat dripped from his brow as alarms continued to wail, and distant shouts indicated that the Krylosians were closing in. Finally, with seconds to spare, he activated the detonation sequence and fled. As he reached the safety of a maintenance corridor, a deafening explosion rocked the ship. The Zin core erupted in a brilliant cascade of light and heat, crippling the Zalvor. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing off sections of the vessel while automated systems struggled to contain the damage. Amid the pandemonium, Elias seized his chance. He made his way to the command center, knowing that if he could access the ship's communications array, he might be able to send a distress signal to any surviving remnants of Earth's fleet. Along the way, he encountered resistance, but this time he wasn't alone. Other prisoners, emboldened by the chaos, joined him. Together, they fought their way through hordes of Krylosian soldiers, turning stolen weapons against their oppressors. When Elias finally reached the bridge, he found it in disarray. Smoke filled the air, and sparks flew from shattered control panels. At the center of the room stood the ship's captain, a towering Krylosian warrior adorned with jagged armor and glowing insignias. Its multifaceted eyes locked onto Elias with murderous intent. "You are persistent, human," the captain rasped, raising a serrated blade. "But persistence will not save you." Elias didn't respond. Instead, he lunged forward, engaging the alien in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Despite the creature's superior strength and size, Elias's agility and determination gave him the edge. Dodging each swing of the blade, he struck at weak points in the Krylosian's exoskeleton until, with a final blow, he drove the weapon into the captain's chest. Breathing heavily, Elias turned to the communications console. His fingers flew across unfamiliar controls as he patched together a message. "To any human ships still out there, this is Captain Elias Kane. The Zalvor has been disabled. Coordinates attached. Strike now, before they recover." No sooner had he sent the transmission than the ship shuddered violently. Secondary explosions rippled through the hull, signaling the end of the Zalvor. Knowing he had mere moments left, Elias grabbed a life pod and launched himself into the cold embrace of space. Days passed in silent isolation. Elias floated among the wreckage of the once mighty warship, unsure if his message had reached anyone. Then, like a miracle emerging from the darkness, a fleet of human vessels appeared on the horizon. Led by the battered but resilient flagship, Eagle's Wrath, they descended upon the remnants of the Krylosian armada. From the viewport of the rescue shuttle, Elias watched as Earth's defenders unleashed their fury. Plasma cannons tore through enemy ships, and boarding parties stormed what remained of the Zalvor. For the first time in months, hope flickered in his heart. When the battle ended, the Krylosian fleet lay in ruins. Humanity had struck back, thanks to the actions of one man who refused to give up. As Elias stepped onto the deck of the Eagle's Wrath, greeted by cheers from his fellow survivors, he knew that this victory was only the beginning. The war was far from over, but now, humanity had a fighting chance. And Elias Kane? He had earned his place among the stars, not as a prisoner, but as a legend.